Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This is one using some of the material out of the annual catalog and some of the material out of the new holiday catalog. And because we are now past the deadline, I can actually show you things inside the catalog. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're using today. I am using a white base that is 8.5 by 5.5 scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I'm using a piece of Whisper White that is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Then I have, and I'm in a little bit of a dilemma here, I'm going to make the decision as I make this which I'm going to use, but I've pulled a piece of silver cardstock, silver foil cardstock that is 2.5 by 5 3/8, and then I have this wonderful stuff. It's called chicken wire element, and it comes like this, and it comes in a package of several of these pieces, and it pops out of this frame here, and we have this pretty little chicken wire element. And then I am using an embossing folder here. Let me take you to the page in the catalog that I'm doing here. So here is the chicken wire element on page 43 in the new catalog. And then the embossing folder is also on that page. It's called Tin Tile Dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing Folder. Now that's a mouthful. And the other thing that I'm using, I'll show you here in a minute, but this is the embossing folder, and you can see the tin tile look to it. It's really pretty spectacular. So what I've done is on this piece, what I did was on the original piece, I used the embossing folder on this piece of designer series paper, and I used from this frosted floral paper in the catalog on page 37. This beautiful floral here is the piece that I'm using, and I'm using the back side of it. So here's that beautiful floral on the one side, and then on the other is this beautiful little frosted silver paper with a little white embellishment, and I thought that looked really nice on here. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought I wanted to add a little silver, so I used an embossing my embossing buddy and some silver powder to go over it, and this is the effect I got. Well, I was thinking, since you can't really see the pattern on it, maybe I'd be better off to go with just a piece of silver. But when I cut it, I ran both of them through the embossing folder, and I don't know, I like the dark background on the one that is the paper. I love the look on the silver foil paper, but I think I'm going to stick with this one because it gives it kind of a darker, richer background rather than so bright with this. So I'm using that frosted floral paper here, and I'm using the back side, which has got this silvery, and it's got a pearlized look to it, and then some berry sprigs on it. So that's what I'm using. Then I am using for my medallion here on the front, I have a piece of Whisper White that's 2 1/4 square, and then I have a piece of silver foil that is 2 1/2 square. And so let's just get started on this. Oh, the stamp set. The stamp set that I'm using is one that I've had, it intrigued me, and I got it, and this is really the first chance I've had to work with it. It's called Around the Corner, and it's got these lovely little sayings, and I was so drawn to the messages. It's your day in kind of a thicker font than It's Your Day, and all of these sentiments fit around the corner of a sentiment. Celebrate every tiny victory. I just love that. You matter. And then there's all of these elements in here. There's a little, like a birthday party hat, and some leaves and sprigs and some flower bases here, and this little squiggle that goes around the corner. So what I'm using for this card is I used the hello there, then I used this corner piece, and then I used this piece here, this square, because I thought it so closely mimicked the pattern in the embossing folder. If you take a look at that. And so that's what I did on the front of my card. I put my hello there, and then I turned it at an angle so it could easily be read, and then I used this little element up here to mimic the tile. And on the inside, I just used that little corner piece on two sides just to give a little something for the inside. So that is what I'm using today, and it's actually quite a simple card. There's a little bit of embossing, so there is that, but beyond that, there just isn't a lot to it. So I'm going to bring up a little piece of scratch paper here, and we'll just get started. I'm going to start on this piece here, and I do think I'm just going to go ahead and go with this. So I used my embossing buddy, although I really don't care where the powder goes on this one, because the idea is to get it dusted with powder. So I'm going to just use my Versamark pad here, because I'm really just trying to capture the tops of the elements that have been embossed. So I drug it very lightly across there. All right, then I have some silver embossing powder here, and I'm just going to kind of dip this into this embossing powder and get a little bit of embossing powder kind of all over this panel. And then I'm going to flick off the excess here, and there we go. So that's got the silver embossing powder on it, and while I'm at it, I might as well do my stamping. So I'm going to move that out of the way here, and I do like how that has the darker background. The more I look at it, the better I like it. Okay, so on this stamp block, what I did was I mounted my hello there and then my little tile on here. So bring back my Versamark and let me ink this up. And this one is photopolymer. So I'm going to need my Pierce mat here. Dig it out. And I'm going to set this image down right in the corner of this piece. And as I look at it, this does not look straight to me, so I'm going to straighten that out just a bit. There, I think that looks straight now. Okay, let me re-ink here and come down here. Can't remember whether I did my embossing buddy on this or not, so never hurts to have more of it. Okay, so here we go, right in this corner. I thought it was just such a clever idea to go around the corners on some of these messages, because it's an interesting way to add your sentiment. A little different, like that. Okay, so here we go. All right, I've got that now. I'm going to get a little bit of silver embossing powder on that piece. And that's all ready to go. then I need to do on the inside of my card the two little corners. So I'm going to go ahead and do those now. So there's one corner and a second corner. And I'll get a little bit of embossing powder on those corners. Okay. And as always, I will quiet the video while I heat emboss these images here. Okay, I have all of my images now heat embossed, and we are just about ready to assemble this card. And there you can see the silver on this, and I'll bring it up so you can see. It really does obscure the pattern, but I just didn't like how bright this was. I suppose I could have dulled it down with some black ink, but I do like the effect of the little silver on top of this pattern a little bit better. So that's what we're going to go with. All right, so back to our card here, and we are going to put this material on this base here, this panel, layering panel. And I think, let me just take a look at this and see what I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So what I'm going to do is use my snips, and I'm just going to cut along the pattern here and snip this little piece off that we need for our card front. And there we go. All right, so you have still quite a large piece left for another project. All right, so this piece is going to go on here, and it looks like it's going to need just a tiny bit of snipping off of one end. And how I'm going to glue this on, this looks to be sort of nightmarish if you take a look at how you're going to get glue on the back of this. But what I have done is I used the technique of using some Tombow glue and a sponge. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Tombow glue. So I'm going to put quite a bit of Tombow glue down on this mat, and then I'm going to set this on my silicone mat so that the entire piece is on the mat, so I don't have to move it. And I'm going to use my sponge here to just dab a little bit of Tombow glue on the back side of this chicken wire piece here, and trying not to move it around too much because I don't want to get glue on the front side of the shiny side of this. So there we go. I've got glue sort of all along on this piece, and then I'll show you how to get that off of your craft mat. But I think I'm going to lay this down this way, and I'm going to set it so that the tops of one of these pieces lays down just flush with the top, and there we go. Now that's laying flat on my card piece there, and it looks like I did move it, so I've got a tiny bit of glue on it, but I think once that dries, a little glue eraser will take most of that off. And I'm just going to trim the edge off of here. There we go. With its glue on it, of course, it's wants to stick. Okay, so here we go, and I'm going to use right now just my embossing buddy to make that glue that did escape to the front side not sticky by putting some embossing powder on it, and then I can go back in and clean that up with my glue eraser when that's good and dry. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to lay this piece down here, and it should completely just fit on the card front here. So I'm going to use some snail. Somebody asked me the other day, snail was such a slimy thing. Why did we call this thing snail? And I honestly think it's the shape. It is a tape runner, and I will try to call it a tape runner from now on. But people refer to it as snail because of its shape. So that's the answer to that question. But one person found it quite offensive to think about slimy things on your projects. And I'll have to admit it didn't hit me one way or the other, so I've just called it snail all along. Okay, so this is going to overlap this by a lot of that last column here. And if I set this up to fit right along the edge of the top and down the side of my card here, if there is any piece that's over, and boy, just ever so slightly, a little tiny bit here, you can trim that off and get a perfect fit. So there we go. And then I wasn't crazy about this rough edge, so I used some of our silver edged 3/8 inch ribbon with the white and the silver, and I thought that looked really nice. It kind of added a little softness to all of these sharp angles, and I liked that idea. So I'm going to snip this off here, and I'm going to add some tape runner on the back side of this, and let me clean up my silicone mat because I'm going to need it again. This is blue painter's tape, and blue painter's tape is positively magic when it comes to taking glue off of your craft mat, and the faster you attack it, the easier that glue comes off. Now, that took just a minute, and when I'm done with it and it's still got sticky on it, I just stick it to the edge of my table so it's there for me to grab again if I need it. But there we go, and because I want to put a little bit of tape along the ribbon here so that it'll stay put a little bit more carefully. So I am going to run this ribbon basically right along the edge of this embossed piece. And that is frankly so that I get this lovely chicken wire stuff to show through. And then I'm just going to wrap this around the back and anchor it in place. And there we go. That looks nice and finished now. So you can see that this card comes together really pretty quickly. Now I have our lovely little sentiment here that is going to go across here. It looks like I got an extra little bit of embossing on there. Oh well, this will end up being a sample then. All right, so again, I'm going to put some tape on the back of my sentiment piece here and attach it to my silver foil piece, centering it on all four sides so that it has the same amount of margin. And then I'm going to use some dimensionals here on the back. Let's see, so I put some dimensionals on the back of my piece here, and I'm going to center it now on my card. And because of the way I layered the ribbon on, it is centered on the card on the right-hand side of the ribbon trim. And I've got to decide, I guess, if that's going to bother me. Or do I want it? No, it definitely needs to be centered. I suppose you could get away with that by making the chicken wire one more row bigger and this about a ½ inch shorter, and just move the center, this tape to the center, or just not let it bother you. So I'm going to center this here from side to side and a little bit up from the middle on the bottom. And there we go. Our panel is all done. Then we have our card base here, and this piece is going to go on here again with a little bit of tape. And make sure your message is right side up. And this is going to go on here with just the tiniest border around the edge. About 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And that's it. That is the card. So once again, a simple little card, but I love the impact. And I did like it better, I think, with that designer series paper being the piece that was embossed instead of the silver, although it would just make it brighter and shinier if you did that, but I kind of like the dull down edges on this one. So that is the project for today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel and visiting with me today. I do so appreciate it. And let's see, the prize draw for the month of September is the Dashing Deer bundle, the stamp set, and the die set. And here it is. It is a bundle on page 9, and it's got these beautiful deer stamps and some wonderful little sentiments here. And then the die set has not only the standing deer and the smaller deer, but it has this leaping one, which is one I used on a card the other day. So that is the prize draw for the month of September. And the winner for last month, which was the Tropical Chic bundle, was Louise Whitford. So congratulations, Louise. And I've sent her an email, and I have her bundle coming and should be off in the mail to her in no time flat. So let's see, things that are going on. Oh yes, if you accumulated bonus coupons in, I'm going to straighten this out just a little bit. Hopefully I don't make anybody seasick. If you accumulated coupons in the month of August, you get to spend them now. And you can spend them in this new wonderful fall catalog. It's got so many beautiful things. Once again, the papers are incredible. I've been chomping at the bit to get in here and work with some of the different stamp sets. There's just so many really beautiful things in this catalog. I hope you get a chance to look through it, and if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, and I'm happy to send you a copy of this wonderful catalog. So that is it for me today. Anything here now is orderable. Isn't that exciting? From the fall catalog or the main catalog on my website, which is www.lbedinger.stampinup.net. And if you, like I said, if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. If you're interested in getting discounts for what you order, please give me a call. I'd love to talk with you about it. Well, that's it for me today, and I'll be back soon with more cards and more projects. Bye.